Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Come along with us on an idle ride through the latest science fiction and fantasy shows, movies, and video games. Welcome to Idle Ride. I'm Marcy, your host, here with my co-host and chosen brother, Paul.
I kind of don't want to do this, but I want to do this.
I know. So we're doing it, folks. We're taking a pause with Silo, and we're going into Last of Us Season 2. I'm super excited, but also depressed to be doing this, because it just gets darker from here, folks.
Never gets better. I mean, maybe it gets slightly better sometimes. You know how it is.
Yeah.
It's like life.
As we get older, things are not as bright and glowy. That's just life.
I thought you were going to say like tight and perky.
Well, that too. So, Last of Us, Season 2, Episode 1, Future Days. Paul, I know that you have watched a watch through on the internets of Season 2, or The Last of Us 2, the video game.
Yes, I should fully confess that I don't own a PlayStation, Xbox, any of the console games. I don't like PC Master Race even as a term, but I move a lot, and so there is no reason to carry hundreds of pounds of electronics when my computer can do everything.
Perfect explanation for why you haven't played it. And also, I just know that you like watching people
Let's
play
plays.
games.
Yeah.
I have not played The Last of Us 2. I have been planning to do it. I was going to do it before the season came out. And as a person who has lots of hobbies and lots of things that I like to do, I kept pushing it back because I wanted to Twitch it. And I learned how to do Twitch, but then I wanted to play Last of Us 1. And I started playing Last of Us 1, and then I was like, fuck, it's almost April. Season 2 is coming out.
You think that's what the groundhog does when he sees his shadow? It's not really a shadow. He's like, oh, fuck, they're doing that thing again.
Yeah. And so then I was going to try to do it, but I've been having some headaches that last a long time, but we figured it out. But like right before my vacation, and there's no way I'm going to play a video game on my vacation. And now it's getting sunny in Portland. So sorry, folks. It's springtime. Anyway, I didn't play Last of Us 2 on Twitch, but I might try to get started a little bit. Anyway, I know because of Paul, he loves spoilers. I love spoilers. He already told me the secret of secrets that I won't really talk about right now. But I held out hope that maybe the biggest, most controversial plot point might not come up. So anyway, Paul's the Oracle, and I'm the newbie when it comes to the game and some of the plot points of the game that we might run into in the show. Okay, let's get started. So I'm going to talk about the episode the same way that I did last episode, where I go through the key moments of a scene, and then we'll kind of recap that scene and talk about it a little bit. So the very first scene is a flashback where some teenage fireflies discuss Joel's rampage and Abby wants revenge. Some of these key moments are a brief scene of Ellie asking Joel to swear from season 1 that nothing happened at the hospital, which he does, liar, liar. Then it opens up on that flashback scene, and we start with the giraffes, which were the symbol of Ellie's innocence, which is going to be even more tarnished this season, I can already tell.
And that's why they just AK gun down the giraffes.
And then because of the giraffes, we know that they're in Salt Lake City. These teenagers are talking about somebody who might have been, that's not true. So they're implying that she was immune, but nobody believes that she was immune. They don't know Ellie's name. But there's this new character introduced, Abby, and she wants revenge. Abby's boyfriend agrees to help her find Joel and kill him, and Abby wants to make Joel suffer. So that's that beginning scene. What do you think of them opening with the fireflies? Is this how you remember the game opening, or?
No, I'm watching the same Let's Play, Jacksepticeye, because he was so excited and didn't know anything, so I thought it would be a fun way to go through it again. But no, basically the game opens up on where you might say episode 2 starts. It's after the dance party. I think the dance party was previewed in like some trailers. So like they knew that there was some flirting. I think they had the line of like, they should be terrified of you, Ellie. Which, you know, in a dancing like courtship thing, everyone's like, oh, that's a cute phrasing. But no, everyone should always be terrified of Ellie.
And that's in episode 2. They do say that line.
Yeah, so all of that does happen, but it's pushed off. A lot of the stuff that happens in this, I think it does get revealed. And I'm sure that they're splicing some of the stuff because these are some deep flashbacks. And the game, there's an opening cutscene and Joel and Tommy are just in like the nearby woods houses. Mm-hmm. And Joel is polishing a guitar that has a moth symbol on it. And he's confessing everything to Tommy. And Tommy is very like supportive family member, just like, and then what'd you do? Oh, and then, okay, cool, awesome. We should go now. And then Tommy's running off ahead, and this is like the first gameplay moments. You're on the horse, you're Joel on the horse going from the garage to the town. So it kind of has some flashbacks to the first game. He ducks under the garage door and ducks under whenever you get under high things. It's got some really cool gameplay elements that are you could easily throw away. Like you go into the woods and the sun pierces through the trees and he puts an arm up to shade his eyes. Like there's some really, really good gameplay. Then they get to the town. The town is much smaller in the game than it is. Like it's almost city size now. And then there's another scene of Ellie in the journal, which happens in episode 2. So I won't go too much on that.
Well, she does some journaling in this episode.
Specifically, the journal scene where Joel in the episode takes the guitar out. So like that scene is almost a 1-to-1, except he's bringing her the guitar in this one. And he actually plays a song for her. So I hope they flash back to that and show that anything that Ellie knows on guitar is something that Joel taught her.
Oh. All right, so a very different first scene. Let's not get too much more into the differences right now. When I was watching this scene with the fireflies, I was like, okay, we're going to get a total body count here. So I counted in one of the scenes all the crosses. I counted 16. How many did you count?
I tried a couple different views. I only got 15. So you beat me.
Yeah.
Because we know there's 16? Like 18.
I think so. 16 crosses from the angles that we saw. Like, I know, again, Joel is a bad guy from the perspective of other people, aka this poor girl child whose father just got murdered. But he's a badass. He motherfucking killed like 18 dudes like, to get to Ellie.
War-trained dudes.
And, you know, to go back there and think about that scene, I was like, okay, they're going to want me to feel empathetic towards Abby. I can feel it coming. They started with her because Abby is, of course, going to be somewhat, I'm thinking, since actually I don't know much more than up to the second episode of the game, is that she's going to be the antagonist, at least initially. We don't know what else is going to happen. So I'm like, okay, empathy for Abby. So then I started watching videos, YouTube videos and TikTok videos of people justifying why you don't have to feel bad about Joel killing all these people to get Ellie back. And I'm like, yes, I totally agree with all these theories.
King Joel!
Because one of them was a doctor and he's like, so a primary care doctor is going to not even take like some cells out of her body before killing her. Like you're literally killing the one person who can create these kind of antibodies or whatever it is. And he's not even like an immunologist or anything. He's just a primary care doctor. Like, sorry. So that one argument alone, like, convinced me. I was like, you know, you're right. Like, just some random doctor isn't going to be able to recreate the immunity from, like, one sample that would be like, exactly. Don't kill your one shot at getting this.
So I like your argument more in the sense that it will convince somebody who has no empathy. But when I rewatched the part where the doctor like went up and went, "What are you doing? No!" And then he like takes 2 steps back and grabs his scalpel and he's like, "I will protect my right to like kill this girl who would definitely have given consent if we gave her a chance."
Yeah, right.
Like he ate through his own like consent argument just by never asking, at least in the show.
And then also, I think they had him grab the scalpel partially so that we could be like, well, he had a scalpel in his hand.
Like a cop argument. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like, or the, what's his name shot first in the Han Solo argument. The Greedo shot first. So anyway, I was already gearing myself up to like, okay, you have to have like no empathy for this person, even though I am a person who, the moment we start seeing it from Abby's point of view, I feel like you start, at least here in this first episode, feeling some empathy for her. The second episode, not so much. Sorry. Sorry, chickie.
So some things I liked about this scene, Abby clearly has more personal reason to be angry because it's her dad as the doctor. All the rest of them are just younger Fireflies that she's been hanging out with and training with. But her boyfriend guy, you know, he got that she was just going to like lead them down this path and they had nowhere else to go. And so instead of arguing about, no, let's just go to Seattle, he's like, all right, let's talk about how we're going to kill Joel. And he made his argument the best argument for let's kill Joel. So like, even if he didn't believe it, he convinced her, like, let's actually just go to Seattle from Salt Lake City, which is probably its own epic journey because we've seen how interstate travel works in Last of Us. One of the friends was like, well, you know, we were trying to help survivors. And, you know, one of them was like, yeah, and Joel did take our only working car. But the survivors, Abby's like, and how many survivors did we fix? And I was thinking,
fucking bitch.
Yes, but I also thought of the Dread Pirate Roberts, like, there will be no survivors. That's Joel.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to be terrifying.
Oh, yeah. There's so many scenes where Joel doesn't do shit, but terrifies people. He's just Joel.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows he's got the mantle of fear, an executioner that doesn't wear a mask. Anyway, I thought it was interesting with this scene that none of them knew that Ellie was immune and that they didn't even really know Joel. And a funny thing going around on TikTok, Abby saying, and he's also handsome.
Yes.
And so like, I've been watching all these videos where like this woman was pretending to be the nurse giving the description of Joel to Abby. And so he came in and like, Abby, he was so hot. Like, oh like, my God.
I almost was on his side and creeped myself a little when he shot your dad. Sorry, dear.
It just makes me laugh so much to think about how this nurse or these nurses are just so immune now to death. It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. They've seen hundreds of deaths because they've been trying to save people. And so the moment he comes in, those nurses are probably like, let the doctor handle it. Okay, the doctor's been shot. Whatever. I've seen like a billion people get shot. Woo, that dude is handsome. Oh my God, I want to fuck that guy. Like,
well, we also know from psychology that sometimes brains interpret emotions in different ways, interpret the signals that into different emotions. And so fear is easily turned into arousal. Like the classic experiment is making people cross a rickety looking bridge. And on the other side, there's a slightly attractive person who asks a survey. And the fear made them just be like, yeah, I want to fuck that person.
Well, and Andrew always makes fun of me because arousal as a term medically has lots of different meanings than just I want to have sex with you. Like, I can get aroused in fear or aroused in like suspicion. Like, there's lots of ways for us to have this heightened emotion. And like you said, they're easily confused. So I'll always be like, well, I just got aroused by this sound. And he's like, Marcy, that's gross. And I'm like, I don't mean I want to have sex with it. Like,
Andrew's the one always talking about activation arousal.
Because I taught him that. It's something else, Andrew.
Yeah, also, things can get engorged without being penises.
Exactly. But it is funny to think of other things being engorged that might be like penises.
I had one final thought. This is kind of a question for you. So you're one of Abby's friends in here. You just spent a day or multiple days burying bodies of people that you know. You're kind of young, and Abby's like the only one who really wants to pursue this vengeance track. And you're all like, yeah, I guess I'll help you kill him. And then she does the thing where she kneels at her dad's grave and she turns and looks terrifying at you and says to make it slowly. How do you respond?
Me personally?
Yeah. Kill Joel slowly.
So Marcy personally would, because I'm a lazy person at heart, be like, oh my God, Abby, no. Like, in my mind, this is what's happening.
Of course.
Like, I'm going to have to walk another 1,000,000,000 miles to go, like, kill some motherfucker. But then I would remember that usually when I'm, like, the last man standing in an argument, like, I always wish there's somebody to, like, back me up. So when she's appealing to me with this, like, my dad just got killed, I'd probably be like, okay, fine. You're my best friend. I'll go with you. But then when she turns around and says slowly, I'm probably that like medical girl in the scene where I'm like, ew, and I'd be looking around at everybody else. I don't agree with torture. Like, who else is not agreeing with torture? I've identified the people
I would make
who
eye
agree
contact with
me. Should we really be doing this? And then since the smarter dude who's like better at talking to people, which is usually the way it is because I'm not really good at convincing people to do things, I would be like, oh, good gosh. He like convinced her not to go. And then I would watch her during the 5 fucking years that I had. And obviously all those people that went in that scene about the kill slowly, they must have seen her torture other people already, like in the 5 years, right? So like this is not a new thing for Abby. She's obviously intense and like, I know that she's tortured people to find Joel. Okay, we know this. They probably haven't seen it. I think her second in command has probably seen it.
Okay, I see where you're going. So yeah, like they probably heard, like she's like, yeah, I got some information from some dude that there's a Joel in, Wyoming or whatever, and they'd be like, oh yeah, did he just casually say it? She's like, oh no, I like, convinced him, and you're like, torture him! She tortured him!
Yeah, exactly. And so I would find some way to just like back out of that like journey. I'd be like, you go kill that guy that killed like 18 guys, but I gotta stay here. Like I'm a like I've got like all these little kids that I'm taking care of and dogs. I have my pack of dogs, and they're not any good for like killing zombies. They're just like they cuddle with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gotta take care of my dogs. Abby, sorry. And then she would torture me and kill me because I didn't go with her.
I do think that at least the Abby in the games has sort of an ethical guideline to her, and Joel is the primary exception. So I'm not going to argue like whether she'd do it to get to Joel, but I don't think she'd kill her friends. So I think you're okay.
Okay, good. Well, and that's the true thing is like if it really was like one of my best friends, and I probably knew that guy, that doctor.
Yeah.
And I would. The reality is what I just said, but like what I like to think I would do is be the Joel to Abby and Abby would be my Ellie, and so she'd be like a crazy psycho, but I would be like the Joel that's like, I mean, I did it to save her, okay? Like, I didn't mean to kill that guy, but like he was getting in the way of me killing that other guy, okay?
I think if it was me, I would, I'm thinking I'm a bit younger too. It's not me now. I would probably go along with most of it until the part where she starts actually torturing him, and then I would put Joel out of his misery. And then she would fucking hate me for it.
Yeah, or just like I would maybe take the like second in command aside and be like, you need to stop this right now, or
we're going to be just like him.
Yeah. Whew, okay, I got through that.
Cool.
All right, so the next section is we get a little a pop-up on the screen, which is 5 years later. And I like how they do this. I like how they tell you instead of making you like find out in like 5 bits of dialogue.
Yeah, I hate that in movies and shows when they don't let you even have a sense for how many years it's been.
Yeah, exactly. And then we see Ellie in fight training, and Joel and Dina talk about Ellie. So this is the scene that I'm going to encapture. So key moments from this scene: Ellie is in fight training, though initially we don't know that. So we see her getting beat up. She wins, but her opponent was pulling punches. Ellie tells the guys not to pull punches because she's a badass. Joel's fixing a breaker. He is a foreman at a construction crew that finds roots in a clay water pipe. Dina asks Joel to teach her about the breaker and starts talking to him about Ellie. And Dina figures out Joel is in therapy. So that's the scenes that we're going to encapsulate here.
Yep.
And I do want to mention that I noticed that they go between Ellie and Joel, Ellie and Joel, Ellie and Joel a lot, which makes sense. I know that for you have a little lessons in lore for this scene. So why don't you go ahead and start
jump
there.
into that? Okay. Obviously, when I was watching the scene and Joel was doing some, I didn't identify it at first, but he was doing some electronic stuff. And he actually sits down and tells Dina about what to look for to fix. There's different types of breakers, obviously, but the type of breaker that he was working on. And I was like, oh, I hope he talks about the dangers of American electrical grid system. And he sort of does. He does. He says that, if the breaker didn't exist or if it didn't work properly, it would overheat because it would just allow the current to make a full loop. It overheats. This shit is dangerous. I almost hurt my hand like a month ago, just plugging something in, and I was holding the other end like a fucking idiot. Yeah. So the American system is basically just this hodgepodge of decisions that were made in the past and then backwards compatibility. And backwards compatibility isn't itself a terrible thing. Our entire computer system is so much about that. But the problems with it is, in a sensible forward thinking country that's like, oh, let's get this electricity thing going. What's the downsides that the Americans discovered? Oh, well, in 1911 they burned down like a factory full of like 146 young working girls because they locked them in, didn't have OSHA to protect fire exit rights, and just circuits got a little too hot, and circuits are annoying and you don't really want to trip on cables, so you build them into the walls, and then the walls fucking start to catch on fire. And that's why we even have drywall as a concept, is it's like, it'll put out the fire a little bit, make it slower.
Right.
So 120 volt is somewhat safer to touch than higher voltage systems, but unfortunately, sometimes we have a couple systems like washer dryers and ovens that take more.
Hot tubs.
Oh, hot tubs. I didn't even think about that. They take more, so then you have to like not splice, but like put two together and have a 240 volt outlet. In a sensible country, they have a higher voltage. They have, self-breaking built into everything. Whereas in America, we're like, well, let's just put an outlet that's got a ground fault circuit interrupter, GFCI, the thing with the little reset button that you get annoyed at. And you're like, why does this even exist? That exists as a stopgap to protect you. But those things are mechanical and they can fail too. So in older houses without them, or without like checking them every once in a while, you are risking your own life, and not just fire, but like in a bathroom, there's water involved that can zap you and kill you that way. You don't need a freaking toaster oven in the bathtub. You could just have shoddy construction there. And there's a period in 1965 to 1975. If your house was built then, there was a shortage on copper wire. And they're like, aluminum's the same thing. But the problem with aluminum is it stretches and shrinks more when it heats. Adding electricity, a wire is a form of a resistor, and some of that electricity is going to radiate out through it. And so it will heat up and cool down just by being powered on and off, which stretches it at the places where it's joined. And so then you just got like built-in fire's going to happen. So I'm not an advocate for war. But one really nice effect of recovering after a war is you don't have to live with the bad decisions of the past, and you can make a sensible grid or other systems. And that's kind of my rant.
All right. Well, that was a beautiful overview of the electrical system of the United States. And maybe some of you know from our very first season where I talk about Andrew. Well, he's the same as Joel. He's a contractor. And so he's watching this episode with me. And sometimes he's on his phone because, you know, apocalypse stuff isn't necessarily his thing. And, but then Joel starts talking about a circuit breaker. And the moment Joel gets done explaining that circuit breaker to Dina, Andrew goes, "That's the best description I've ever heard anybody use for a circuit breaker." And I was like, "Aw, he did a good job. They did a good job."
Which I love that because he wasn't expecting to be a teacher. She walked in and said, "Teach me," but go ahead.
Well, yeah, but we've known Joel to be a sucker for kids, right?
Yes.
And I think in a different life with his daughter, Sarah, he would have had to teach her a lot of these things. And it's sweet that he gets to be the contractor again. He's the foreman of the crew. I know that we went a little ahead. I think there could be some things to be said about Ellie's fight scene, mostly just that she's still a badass. She takes on a bigger dude than her. We meet Jesse, who comes into the season fairly often in the episodes, and he's the boyfriend of Dina on and off. He's a leader of the community, and he's always trying to pull Ellie back. Obviously a friend of Ellie's, but also now he has responsibilities. So he's like, you think you're a badass, but he was pulling his punches.
Yeah, he's a little injection of reality check and, yeah, trying to keep things together.
Exactly. And he's obviously a good guy because he's friends with the two most badass girls in the settlement. But yeah, back to Joel's scene. Dina comes in and she's immediately likable, like a sweet, funny, also strong, like all these things you can kind of pick up as she's talking to him. And she's interested in Joel, I think mostly just to get through to Ellie, because, you know, there is some tension between Dina and Ellie, and they're friends, and she's known Joel as long as Ellie, well, not as long as Ellie, but she's known Joel
for as long as she's known Ellie.
And she's like one of the only people I think that's not afraid of Joel. And so she comes in and asks for his help, wants to learn things. She wants to build this settlement. She wants to get these two fucking loners like out of their fucking shells and into this community. And that's her role, I think, is that like she's the one that's trying to get them back together, to get them back into the community, but something has happened.
Yeah. And one thing I love about Dina, like even from the get-go, but you see it more throughout, is she is really clever at knowing the situation and adapting to it. So when she walks in, she's coming in as a worker and saying, our foreman isn't foremaning. but she's not like punishing him. She's just sort of like saying, hey, like some shit needs to get done, man. And then she realizes, oh, he's doing something that's also important. He's not just slacking off. And also he is bothered by this thing. Let's go kid mode. Teach me. And then, yeah, kind of like a step
chameleon.
back. Yeah, very chameleon adapting. She's also funny. Like, she
She
doesn't
is
know the
funny.
answer, so she's like, oh, I guess the sensible way to test if an electrical system's working is lick it.
Yeah, I like that about her because everybody else treats Ellie and Joel like they're badasses, which they are. But I think Dina has seen sides of them that she knows they like to tell these silly jokes to each other, these dad jokes. And so she's doing these things with both of them because I'm sure she's seen them do it to each other, right? So we know that she has a history with both of them. And that's kind of implied in this scene in a very fluid way that's not just like tossing it in your face. I remember when you told jokes to Ellie or whatever. It's done in this very smooth way. Great job, writers. And also, she's good at figuring out these social things. She figures out that he's in therapy.
So I had the
Gail.
same reaction as her when he said, I just can't hold myself responsible for another person's emotional state. It's like, that's not your words.
So I love how he's like, don't tell anybody about me going to therapy. So that's
Got
a really
reputation.
fun, yeah, exactly. Like, I gotta be the tough guy moment there. And my final thing that I want to mention is this is the first time you see Joel. So this is the first time in a show, even current shows do this poorly, but Last of Us did it great. Old fucking man makeup. Because I know Pedro Pascal looks way better than that. And he looks good as an old man, but they did it well so you can't tell that it's old man makeup.
That's amazing. I thought you were going to say the glasses switching.
No, well, that's a
It
good
makes it more
affectation.
believable, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right.
I think there were some complaints on the internet that were like, why does he look so old? I'm like, dude, he was old before, and this kind of life, ages you fast, man.
Yeah. What did they say in the previous scene? Abby was like, an older guy in his 50s.
I think she said 60s. I think he's in his 60s in this.
Yeah. So later she adds a decade to the description.
Oh. Oh, she does? That's hilarious. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next scene. We've got Tommy and Ellie zombie hunting, and then it switches to Joel and Maria talking about building the settlement and refugees.
Ooh, okay.
Key moments are that Ellie kills a zombie with a scoped rifle, and Tommy is teaching her how to shoot. Tommy wants to take her off the patrols because of Joel, which pisses Ellie off. Tommy compares Ellie to Joel. Tommy changes his mind and gives her permission to go on patrol. Some refugees arrive at Jackson Hole. Joel explains his us versus them philosophy that Maria hates. Joel is cute with his little nephew Benji. Tommy arrives back home. Maria reminds Joel he was once a refugee. So we start with Ellie getting some training from Tommy. So we've learned that they've become
pretty
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that Tommy is kind of an uncle to her and has taken on that mantle because he knows that Joel sees Ellie as a daughter. And I love this scene because it is true that Jolie, I like how I combine their name. Joel and Ellie are pretty much personality-wise very similar now because they've been around each other so long, and he's taught her how to be hard when you need to be hard and soft when you should be soft, or at least according to him, when you should be soft.
And she's taught him humor, especially dad jokes.
And I like that Tommy makes that implies, he says, you and Joel are just the same person. And we're getting that feel that they're still family, right? That he sees her as a daughter. She sees him as a father. They don't come out and say those words to each other even, but it's obvious to anyone else who sees them together.
can we talk about the context of that for a second?
Sure.
So, Ellie's like, I can be more reckless because I'm immune. And Tommy tries to stop her. Like, you promise you can't talk about that. Ellie is breaking promises left and right, guys. Let's just deal with that.
Yeah.
And she, like, fucking teenage style just screams it to the world. You know, they're kind of in the middle of nowhere with only zombies listening. But that was the thing that just happened before he said, you know, you're just like Joel. And it makes me think about, you know, obviously Tommy has seen Joel in a way that nobody else has. And so when he said that you're just alike, he isn't just saying she's being like him now. She's saying like he was dumb and impulsive and breaking promises left and right.
Yeah, that makes sense because I think in episode 3, we get a scene where Gail says some poignant things about that. I don't know if you didn't see
I haven't seen
episode 3 yet. And I'll just say it now since I have seen it, where she basically tells Tommy some people are just going to be, they're unsavable, basically. Like, you can't change who they are. And he knows that Ellie is like Joel, so he knows that he can't change who she's going to become. Ellie has to make that decision for herself.
Yeah. Nice.
So I do have that clip of her yelling and being really bratty.
You wandered off on your own, Ellie. We have rules for reasons.
Oh, please. Dana does this shit all the time. No one's putting her on the fucking fence. Tommy, I'm an adult. He can't tell me what I can and can't do.
Yeah, well, he can tell me.
I love how he still follows his brother's directions.
Sometimes, easier to just go along.
I don't care if it's easier. It's not fair. And by the way, you know I'm the one we should be least worried about when it comes to infected.
Hey, no. You swore. We don't talk about that.
I got bit on my arm.
Ellie, we don't talk about that.
I got bit, everybody!
Hey.
I got bit!
Hey.
I'm immune!
Whoa, hey.
Woo!
Jesus. God damn. I swear, you and my brother, same goddamn fucking person.
Well, if you're the same person, you know you're not winning this. Put me on the patrol.
Put me in, coach.
Our pen run leaves at 1300.
You cannot fully tell, but she has the shittiest grin right now.
She's such like a little bee back there, like, hey, I won. And that's the thing with Ellie is she's so used to winning everything because why? Because she has Joel as her backup.
Yeah.
Everybody's afraid of Joel, so she can get away with everything. And she doesn't want to be his shadow, but she's benefited significantly from being behind him and him taking care of all these things. So
yeah, I mean, that's Last of Us 1 in a nutshell. Winning all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess I'll just take a moment to say that it's here where we kind of learn that there's a few more zombies than they expected around, because she's shooting zombies in the head with Tommy.
That's important, yep.
It is. So then we get back to Joel and Maria, and they're talking about, well, she confronts Joel about, you need to make more houses. And he makes a really funny joke there. He's like, oh, I've got a constructometer, and whenever you say to build, I build, or whatever.
Big old dial, just speed it up, slow it down, however you want. I'm just a little dude, just gonna make some buildings.
And she gives him this look that's like, shut up, Joel. And then when Tommy comes,
man.
yeah. And then when Tommy comes back and he's like, she tells him, and he's like, did you talk about the constructometer? And she's like, yes. But the big part of this is where Joel is talking about his prime ethical stance, which is us versus them mentality. Protect your own. If we're going to have to refuse some refugees from coming in, we have to refuse them because we got to take care of our own. And Maria, the moral center, really, of the story, along with Jesse, they're kind of the civilized people.
She's also the moral center of the town. She's in charge of that committee.
Like, she understands that Joel's are necessary, but she has to keep Joel's and Ellie's under control.
Yeah. Just like the attack dogs, which
yeah.
we'll
Which
get
she
to
lets
later.
free when is important. Yes.
Yep, exactly.
She makes a poignant point at the very end after Benji comes in, and Joel's really cute with Benji, that, by the way, Joel, you were a refugee once too.
Yeah.
So suck that in and take it down your pipe.
And he just like, yes, boss.
Yeah, I love how he is around women. Not all women, obviously, but the women that he loves, and he loves her by extension because she's Tommy's wife. That he knows when to keep his mouth shut. Like, his boss was his girlfriend. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't like to make the big decisions. He has these simple construction man ideas of morals, and he sticks to them. And he's happy to have somebody tell him where to go and who to kill, right?
And what to build, what to tear down.
And the one time he had to make his own decision about killing people is the one that really makes him torn apart, right? So that's kind of an interesting take. Like, he's been told how to kill people before, but the one that we see anyway, where he had to make that decision, I'm not saying that he regrets it per se, but he understands the aftermath of what he has done.
And he's just living in those consequences and trying to take it. So I have a couple alternate thoughts on this whole scene. So first, I would like to say that I loved the transition music going into this. There was a wagon coming in, Oregon Trail style, just a bunch of really sad refugees. The music was fucking awesome. Like, it felt like I was in maybe a Super Giants game or something. I noticed chains on the wagon wheels, and I was like, oh yeah, bringing some modern tech to Oregon Trail. Then it's the scene with them talking about construction, and she's added to the list, like, these windows don't work so well anymore. And I just want to be a little petulant child and say that Joel told her that she needs some cock. He did. He did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then also, like, I can sort of see Joel's point. Like, he is working as hard as he can to incorporate new people. You know, I'm sure that there are some places that a bunch of people are stuffed in rooms together and they're uncomfortable. Yes, this office is kind of large and maybe they could have it be a sleeping room. So let's just pretend that when he's not on duty, people are staying there too. Like, make it maximally charitable for, like, the bringing people in situation. But Joel's core argument is the same as the thing that you hear every time you get on an airplane. Put your own oxygen mask on first, because you can't help people if you're also in need. So, like, I get, like, Marcy, you're right. He always has that in-group, out-group mentality. But, like, maybe he softened it a little bit, and he's trying to just make sure that the in-group's okay so that it can be bigger.
Yeah, there's a place for both arguments, right? Yeah. And if you were the refugee, you would want somebody to take you in. But there's other ways to do that too. You could say, hey, there's a town over there that hasn't been taken over yet. We've kind of minimally made it safe for people. So we've cleared out all the zombies there. If you start there,
yes,
we'll come back to you, like, when
hey,
we have enough room.
You can't be behind the wall, but, like, we've cleared this area out.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's strategies, or you could say, we'll take in your younger and more frail, and the stronger people have to go somewhere else. You can come and visit anytime that you want. We'll help you with supplies, but you can't stay here.
But now we're playing Frostpunk because we have to think about food and coal.
Yeah. It's very Frostpunky. And I appreciate you bringing in the ambiance of the show because, you know, with my descriptions, I can't talk about some of the bigger details, but I think they do that a lot in this. And once again, I feel like it's sort of similar to Silo. If you've been listening to our previous episodes, the very first episode of Silo, you see the settlement happy.
Yes.
And, like, thriving. And then there's a few kind of, like, ominous things that get thrown in, like the roots in the clay the moment they chopped open that pipe. I was like, looks like a mycelium pipe to me. And I said that to Andrew, and he's like, uh-huh. And what happens?
Lo and behold, very end of the episode.
There's mycelium in that pipe. Motherfuckers, you're not checking for mycelium? Anyway, so again, I'm happy to see the settlement thriving, but it is different than other shows where in the second season, our main characters are not getting along. So that's a difference. So the next scene is quite a large part of the episode where Joel goes to therapy.
That sounds like a Sunny in Philadelphia title.
It sure does. And the key moments from this is Joel meets with his therapist, Gail, who's the therapist for literally everyone in the settlement. Joel notices 2 pair of shoes at the door. He brings her marijuana for payment. Gail is drinking whiskey during therapy because it's her first birthday without her husband, who was killed by Joel. Joel starts talking about Ellie, about how she's shutting him out. And then he compares Dina and Ellie and how Dina's nice to him and Ellie isn't. And Gail stops him and is like, I think this is the most boring discussion we've had in the last 5 sessions, that this is an obvious thing that young girls do with their dads is shut them out. I know you're lying about something. And then Gail confesses that she hates Joel for killing her husband in an attempt to get him to reveal what he's hiding. Gail wants Joel to confess what he did to Ellie. And I think she obviously thinks something nefarious by her tone of voice. And then he stands up and says, I saved her. So I do have a couple of clips from this scene. Maybe we should just listen to the clips
let's do the
first.
Clips.
And then we can talk about this scene. So the first clip I've titled Whiskey Therapy.
That sounds so Oregon.
Let's try something different.
Like what?
Like not pretending you have the most boring problem in the world. Well, 19-year-old daughter, she's acting toward me like every 19-year-old daughter has ever acted toward their dad, ever. What is this, our 5th session? Are you just going to keep grouching on like this every time?
Of course he
Aren't you
would.
supposed to be validating me or something?
Oh, yeah, actually I am. But I'm not going to do it anymore. Because you're lying to me, and it's exhausting. Yes, you are, Joel. Yes, you are. I've done this long enough to know when somebody is leaving something out, and you are definitely leaving something out. And you want me to validate that? No. In fact, fuck no.
The next clip I have titled, I saved her.
Your turn. Say the thing you're afraid to say. I can help you.
I like the
Say
color
it out
pink.
loud, no matter what it is, no matter how bad. I promise I will help. Did you do something to her?
Huh?
Did you hurt her? Then what? What did you do?
I saved her.
Okay, based on the saved her, in the opening cutscene in the video game that I was talking about a little earlier with Joel talking to Tommy, the last thing that happens before the transition is Tommy is asking, so you're in the hospital, right? And Ellie's there, gonna be cut up. So what did you do, Joel? And in, I feel like it's the exact same tone. Joel goes, looks up, I saved her. So when I heard it again, I was like, oh yeah, that is a direct pull from the cutscene.
Yeah, this whole therapy moment is really beautiful because you can tell that this is what I was talking about in the very first season of that being Joel softening. That scene where he says, I saved her, there's so much nuance to it. Cut it down because when he's taking in what she said, it's a really long beat. It's really long. So long as like people aren't going to be able to sit here listening to just the music. I mean, I can, but it was long.
Yeah.
And then he gets this look of resolve on his face, of scary resolve. You see Gail like kind of go back in her seat in fear, the way that he looks at her. And then he says, I saved her, and walks out. And in her little PhD mind, she's like, what is that mofo hiding? She wants it to be something terrible that he did.
Because she hates him, yeah.
Because she hates him. And so that's when
fear.
Like, Catherine O'Hara, I fucking love her. She's so good. And she's so good in this. Just taking a moment really quick, she was in Schitt's Creek, Beetlejuice, and I didn't know she was in The Last of Us. So when she showed up, I was like, oh my God, she's perfect because she can have that.
You didn't want to say Home Alone?
Oh, Home Alone. Yes, of course. Like all kinds of these amazing films that we've seen. She's an amazing comedic actor. So she's like the perfect person to bring in and bring that like levity along with seriousness.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the tones that she uses and the different ways that she talks to him, like soft, and then, did you hurt her? Like you could hear in there that she wants it to be that, and she thinks it's that, because of his tendencies to be violent. And then there's a scene too in there that we kind of skipped over, but where she says that Ellie is not his daughter.
Yes.
And that's another scene where you see his intensity, where he looks at her like, don't even. And she's like, he's not, she's not. Like,
yeah.
And so that's, I think, another part where she's trying to put her own values on him a little bit, where like, I think she stepped out of her therapist role there again, because I'm always annoyed when people are like, my blood relative is more important than my adopted relative. And it's like, fuck you, man. Like,
and I think Joel would have been that way. He definitely started that way. He's not a chosen family kind of person.
It's true.
He's a full-blooded Texan, eat your beef and make your own children kind of guy. But, he's always the dad's maid, never the dad. And he needs this.
So good, Mom. Okay, sorry. That was good. Dad's maid, never the dad. Oh, God. It's so true, though. Like, poor guy, like, he went through all of this for Ellie. He murdered 18 people, and now she's being a little fucking brat.
He keeps getting daughters up to, like, the age of 15. This is the first time he's gotten to 19, almost 20, and now he's like, I'm gonna lose her.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, that's good.
One thing I also noticed in the scene, there's a lot of like ones and twos. So like in the opening, he knocks on the door and it shows a painting of a cowboy on a horse pulling a horse without a rider. And so like there's little hints of loneliness. So like in the background while the two are talking, it shows two birds like stuffed on a perch.
Wow, I love that. I didn't notice those things. I did notice the very specific, almost game-like focusing on certain things like the pipe, like the photos, like Ellie randomly looks at a magazine in this episode. Like there's lots of those little things that feel like if you were a player of the video game, you're getting clues from these moments. Like when he sees the two shoes and she's by herself, you get clues before you get the dialogue. Yeah, exactly. Ambush.
One thing I also noticed about 3/4 of the way through this scene was I think Joel has said more words in this scene than all of season 1.
That's not true. I mean, maybe.
It was a lot of dialogue coming from him.
It was. That's true. I think he had more dialogue with Ellie when he was talking about being a contractor.
Okay.
Whenever he's talking about man stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
When Catherine O'Hara, when she said that I hate you for killing my husband Eugene, in my head I was like, as Joel, well, I hate you for leaving your kid behind every fucking Home Alone episode.
That's funny. I also heard Eugene. I was like, oh, like Eugene Levy, who was her husband in Schitt's Creek.
It's all coming together. It's the Last of Us Schitt's Creek in cinematic universe. Yeah.
Oh, that would be so funny. But also, like, what if we get a flashback and Eugene Levy is the husband? Oh my god. All right, so the next scene is teen Ellie goes on patrol with Dina. So this is the first time we see Ellie and Dina together, but we get some hints that winter is thawing. Again, this will be important for zombie stuff later. Ellie cleans her guns in the garage. Dina is going on the patrol with Ellie and shows up at the garage. Ellie always wears her Keds. Dina asks about Ellie going to a New Year's Eve party. Dina tries to get Ellie to watch movies with her and Joel, but Ellie refuses. Ellie takes her switchblade with her as they're walking out the door. Dina and Ellie arrive late to the patrol briefing that they're getting from Jesse, and Jesse tells Ellie to follow orders from Kat, and Jesse is Dina's ex-boyfriend, on and off again boyfriend.
I would like to ask you about the thawing, because I didn't notice that, and that answers the question of why they break out later. And why is it climate change? Is that why it's thawing and it's not even the new year?
I just kind of noticed, I was like, why are they focusing so much on this tree? Like, I always focus on these scenes that don't involve the characters. Why are they so keen on showing us the thawing of the snow from the trees? So I just kind of assumed it had something to do with more zombies arriving, but could also symbolize, like,
Hope.
That doesn't exist in this season anymore. Yeah, I like that they show Ellie's garage with all its teeny bopper stuff. Even though she's cleaning guns, she's got posters on the wall. And I'm sure all of you who've played Last of Us 2 kind of know all of the lore about the character that's on the wall. And it might be from the comic book that she was reading with Sam from season 1. I couldn't tell. She's got her guitar. There's all kinds of stuff in the room. I didn't pick out a lot of different things, but
You did pick out that her switchblade was stabbed into the dresser. That is also in the game. It's like in the second item you grab, the first thing you do is you put on your coat and fill your backpack. That's like one triangle button. And then you leave the place. This is, going out to do episode 2 thing. But yeah, she pulls the switchblade out.
got it. I like all of this. It's building who she is now compared to who she was before. We finally get to see Dina and her first interaction, and from the very beginning, they're showing, like, Ellie is so awkward. She's just like Joel. Like, Joel is so awkward in social situations, and, like, she's good at making friends with these exuberant, not introverted people. As a somewhat extrovert, I have pretty much exclusively introvert friends because I'm like, must make them my friend and learn their secrets. And that's basically who Dina is. She's like, probably saw them and were like, I need to learn these people's secrets. Like I want to be friends with them. They're going to be my friend and nobody else's. Ha ha! I did it. And so, but you can see Ellie in the background really crushing hard. Like,
yes.
Every scene that she's in with Dina, like, she portrays crushing hard like a champ. Like, like the awkward tension is, like, so awesomely done by Bella
Don't touch me, I can do it myself. Okay. For a split second, when you were talking about introverted, I was like, did Marcy not catch the crushing? Like, she has to have caught the crushing. You worried me very briefly. Yeah, I also love just how Dina walks in, like, oh, this is your place. Like, so she hasn't been there before, really. Just take as much time as you need. 2 minutes.
Yeah. I love that it's expected that Ellie will never do things the way that she's supposed to do because Jesse is reading them the riot act for showing up late. But I like the banter that Dina and Ellie have of like best friend banter, like we always have each other's backs. And that they've obviously done this before together because Jesse says in this scene where he's giving the briefing, like, everybody looks up to you. I don't know why, to both of them. And so it's obvious that they have a reputation for being badasses.
And so there are 2 references to Curtis and Viper. Did you catch those?
I did, and I had to look it up, but since
Same.
you probably know more.
I probably don't because I looked it up yesterday. But yeah, I heard it early with Dina, and then later Jesse calls them Curtis and Viper, and Ellie's like, what? It was in the first season as the show that Joel was going to watch with his daughter when she died that day. What else?
Well, it's like a fake 80s action franchise. And so everybody knows about it. And they're also giving you clues here that, again, Ellie is just like Joel because she dresses like Joel. She's wearing her gun the way that Joel, remember, he always had his gun kind of upside down so he could just bring it out really fast. So she's wearing the gun just like Joel. Like, she's basically learned everything that she knows from him. And so she looks and acts like Joel. And Joel looks and acts like Curtis and Viper. So
And this is why Joel is going to die, is because we don't need him anymore. We have Ellie.
No! Oh, God. I can't wait for episode 2. Like, just like the game, there's a lot of backlash. But that's what makes it good. Sorry. Okay.
Did you also catch the horse's name that Ellie's riding?
Oh, yes, of course I did.
I thought you would.
Shimmer. She's still a girly girl at heart, like my little lesbian and her Shimmer. It sounds just like a She-Ra name. I was
It
like,
does.
is this a She-Ra Princess of Power name for your horse? Like, oh my God, I lost my mind when I got the name of the horse. Yeah, that was my last note. Shimmer.
I love it. Shimmer, my last note. I will die for this. Yeah, no, I loved Dina talking back at Jesse. You know, he's like giving them the very basic instructions. And she's like, I'm going to interrupt this and just say all the things that need to be said so we can just fucking skip dialogue.
Yeah, seriously. I really would probably be the person that's on the other horses. Like, this is the person in class who like raises their hand, doesn't have anything important to say. The class clown who I'm like, shut the fuck up so we can get out of here, get done with our job, come back so I can cuddle with my dog.
Real intrinsic motivation. I feel, Marcy, that the character of Kat, who we find out in a second is Ellie's ex and the only other person like her in town, is kind of like you. Because she just keeps going like,
yeah,
you're going to get in trouble. We got to go back.
The reality of Marcy's true personality would be like, but I would be more forceful. I would not let them go.
No.
I'd be like, get the fuck back on your horse right now. You're not taking me into that store to fucking die, okay?
Let the real fighters fight.
Yes. Or we're all going in.
Yeah.
You know? You're going to make me go in there right now? Where we're all going to die? Like, well, I have some stuff to say about that scene. So
let's get there.
Let's move to the patrol. So the next scene is the patrol. The key moments from that is they're patrolling on the road. Dina asks if Ellie is going to the party with Kat, and she awkwardly implies that they are both lesbians without actually saying the word lesbian, and that Kat and Ellie had an affair. Dina says that they would go together, and Ellie's like, fuck no. I'm not going with Kat. And then Dina says, oh, well, then we can go together. Oh, they see blood on the road, and Ellie and Dina disobey Kat and ride into the town. They find a bear that's been eaten by zombies and had a really hard fight. Dina does a bear BQ joke. The rest of the patrol show up. Dina and Ellie go into the store without backup. So we started talking about those soap opera-y relationships. And that's one of the things that I kind of love about this show, too, is that it's so character-driven, like everything is. Because in a game, you're a character, and the show can actually embellish on them, whereas in the game, most of the stuff has to be action. So now we get to see some of the deep relationships that these people have. And so when Dina... This is where Dina starts to piss me off a little bit, okay?
Ooh.
Like, I like Dina because I like her personality, but also she's a little bit of a fucking tease. Like, I get that she's confused, that she's also an early teen.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously accepts that Ellie's a lesbian, but is not really accepting that she might be bisexual or a lesbian as well. So... not even saying the word. Come on, you know the word.
Yeah.
And so you can tell that she's kind of hiding from it, but also like teasing Ellie constantly. She's trying to get a reaction, making Ellie make all those choices for her. Even though she grabs and kisses Ellie in that final scene, it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that does annoy me.
The bit where Ellie starts talking and Dina like pulls her horse in and does like a shoulder bump with the horses. I was like, that is so good because it wasn't her doing like an action. She made a mount do the emotional nudge.
That's cute. I didn't see that. That's a good pull. I think they definitely made the characters that aren't Ellie and Joel and Dina look like video game characters. Like Kat has this very distinctive cap. I'm wondering if the character in the game had the same cap. But like everybody kind of has their own look, which is very game-like. And it reminds me of the fact that I was very happy when people in a winter setting were actually wearing winter hats. And we're reminded again that Joel and Tommy are two badass soldiers who don't need to wear hats. They're the only ones that don't wear hats. And Maria doesn't wear a hat, but she never leaves town.
Right. Barely goes outside. Just a miscellaneous, the band that they say is going to play later tonight at the party, they call Brittany and the Jug Boys.
So it's probably just Brittany and it's these other dudes. That's funny. I love it. Yeah, so when they get to town and the bear is there, it's pretty gruesome, and it's a really good scene of like setting the stage that maybe the zombies might be a little different than they're used to because they've never seen a bear taken down by zombies before.
And they throw out that line, like, how many zombies does it take to kill a bear? And I was thinking about it, like, they're not intrinsically stronger, at least the most common types of zombies. Like, how many people who don't care about their own physical health would it take to take down a bear? It doesn't have to be too many because wolves, can harry a much bigger opponent, but we're not that fast either. So I don't know. Feels like it should be more than the 6 that they say it took.
This is something I've always had to just
wave away
because if you had an army of tanks, you wouldn't have to shoot them. You would just run over them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how many people you have. If a tank is moving, you're not going to be able to roll a tank. Or I always thought it'd be funny, like a steamroller, like a pavement steamroller is so heavy. There's no way you'd be able to lift it as a normal human, even if you're like a zombified human.
Mm-hmm.
Just build a cage and roll over the zombies. Just keep rolling over the zombies.
Keep a gas can in there. Have like a little way to pour gas in from within your cage. You're safe for a long time.
But a bear, again, yes. Bears, we're from Alaska. We know. When people say that they could beat a bear, they're fucking idiots. They are so strong.
Have you been listening to the comedian Josh Johnson? Okay, it sounded like you did, and that's why I asked. So he's a Daily Show correspondent. I don't know if that's how he got big. I've heard of him for a while. He has some very funny segments, but a fairly recent one, he's like, yeah, you just have that one guy in your friend group who just like casually asks, so you think I could take a bear? Like, if I snuck up on him, and like adds just a bunch of little caveats, and he's like, no, dude, it's a fucking bear.
Oh, it's like an internet thing. They asked a bunch of men in different countries what animals they thought they could take. They did a survey, and 70% of American men thought that they could beat a bear in a fight.
70%, Marcy?
Some ridiculous.
More than
high.
one?
Yes.
Like,
so this is like American alpha machoism to the max. Like,
oh my God.
they're so dumb because they do not understand the reality of a half a ton bear with a paw the size of your head, talons coming out of it that aren't really retractable, so they're always there, and hitting you in the face.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it would take a lot of zombies to take out a bear.
I love your point. And yeah, like there are the occasional stories of hunters who get ambushed by a bear and stab it to death or to retreating and then it bleeds to death. It has happened that a one person can solo a bear. They are wrecked for life though. And like, they don't talk about how wrecked for life are. And yeah, as Americans, we live in trucks the size of tanks. And sure, we all have like sniper scopes on every gun that we have. That doesn't mean that you could physically take a bear in a fight, guys.
Yeah, and a bear has these natural self-preservation instincts. So if a bear was being overwhelmed and fighting, because there's no way for it to escape, you will get the full wrath of the bear as a zombie.
Yeah.
Like, when a bear attacks a human, a grizzly bear, this is what we're talking about, not a black bear.
Yeah.
Usually what they say to do is to play dead because they might like gnaw on you, but sometimes they bury you and save you for later. So like, that's what you're hoping the bear will do. If it wants to kill and eat you, it's going to kill and eat you.
Yeah.
And unless you have like a really powerful gun, they have found bears who have been just fine with bullets in their skull from being shot.
Yes, that is the perfect counterexample.
They're still alive.
Yeah.
Still alive. So unless you have like that gun from Tremors that Reba McEntire has, the elephant gun, you're not going anywhere. You're going to die.
Yes.
Okay. So they make some cute jokes on their horses about barbecues. Like, you can tell they're sort of immune to the violence at this point. Kat shows up. They don't listen to her. She's obviously an ineffectual leader. I don't know why Jesse chose her to be the head of the posse. Like, the guy sitting next to her is like, you're going to let him do that? Like, he should have been the captain.
Okay, so there's a series of mistakes that have come to this moment. Tommy saying to Ellie, follow the leader, do what you're told, by the book. She lied and said yes. Tommy fucked up there. Jesse, like you just said, like he did his best from like a go team kind of way. He said the line about, for some fucking reason, people look up to you. He tried to modulate what they're going to do, but they're just going to be Ellie and Dina. And when Kat says, okay, we've reconned, let's go back, they're going to be like, let's recon some more until we're actively overwhelmed by a dozen zombies. We're just going to go for more.
I mean, I think the thing they should do is just be like, okay, you're so good. You're the leader of the posse. They are responsible for other people other than themselves.
Yeah.
And that would immediately temper, you are good at what you do.
But you're not the underdog anymore. You're the overdog who has responsibilities.
Exactly. You're Joel
like
now.
that. You're Joel.
Yeah.
And they're Ellie, and you know how they can't take a fight because they're not as good as you.
So I do have a clip from this scene, which I have titled Save the Babies.
So you think Hungry Boy's still alive in there?
Fucking hope so.
Good. Oh.
Oh.
Hi. Oh, hi there. Here comes fun.
Oh my god. Happy? Hey, can we go back now, please?
Yeah, we will. Promise. We're just gonna listen quick, see if any are in there. Which is definitely recon. You know, maybe there's a regular person who's trapped and needs help.
Yeah, what if there's a family in there? What if there's a toddler? Or a baby? There's no babies in there.
No babies in there.
Hey, come on. Rules. Fine. If you hear anything, you come right back. Okay.
Another lie.
Yeah. The next scene is kind of a long one as well. It's the store. So they've made it into the store. Ellie goads Dina into going to the store alone without the rest of the patrol because Dina's like, oh, I don't know about this because we hear lots of clickers in there. They throw a bottle to distract the clicker. Ellie observes the pictures of employees of the month at the store. Ellie backstabs a clicker with her switchblade. Ellie falls through the floor. Dina tells Ellie to stay put, but of course Ellie doesn't. Ellie looks at a magazine, then hears a creepy noise. She confronts a new zombie type, aka the Stalker.
Ooh.
It's a creepy girl zombie. Ellie taunts it. It hides. Ellie gets jumped and bitten on the stomach. Ellie kills the zombie and hides her bite from Dina.
Great synopsis.
So, lots to love about this scene if you're a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
I love their stupid hand gestures because that would really be what people who aren't military do. They like don't know the hand signals. So I love that they're doing stupid faces at each other and going like they're like killing zombies. So good.
Like, I'll kill it this way, you kill it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an example of Dina teasing. So obviously not necessarily the most mature form of communication, but it does like they goad each other into pressing on because both of them were hesitant about turning back, and they both like said and did things to make each other like, oh yeah, we can do it. Let's do it. Like, if you'd like, we could let the men handle it. Like, they're both teasing as good as they get, but they're not taking it seriously at all.
What this tells me is that they've done it enough that they think that they can handle it, but it is still scary zombies.
Yeah.
I do love, again, that they've included all the game features, like using a bottle to distract the clicker.
Our good friend the bottle makes an appearance.
Yes. And the flashlights, the backpacks.
Yeah. And like they use the flashlights to get each other's attention.
Her looking at a magazine or her looking at the pictures. That's what you would be doing if you're Paul and I playing a game. You're constantly looking at everything. And I think, again, you can see the love that the creators of this show have for the original content, which I appreciate. I do want to mention that I feel like Ellie is an adrenaline junkie at this point. And because she's immune, she thinks she's can never be killed. And this is where I don't like Ellie. So I don't like Dina and I don't like Ellie for different reasons. Because Ellie is putting Dina in danger constantly because she's immune. If she gets bit, we see it here. She gets bit, she doesn't have to worry, but Dina does.
Yep.
And so she's constantly putting Dina into these positions in which Dina isn't immune. Dina is not indestructible. I'm a little pissed that she kind of doesn't use these thoughts. But again, teenagers, people trying to get out from behind somebody's shadow. Dina is the sort of the voice of reason, but she's also young and she's stupid. And so they're making these stupid decisions because they're young people.
Yeah. And also, TV doesn't really exist anymore, Marcy. So what are people gonna do? They're gonna ride sleds and get impaled by trees just like they did in Alaska in the 80s.
Yeah, that's true.
Before we get to her falling down through, though, I did want to pause and say that before throwing the bottle, she does look around the scene. And so I paused it like a gamer would and looked around. There's a happy birthday sign on the refrigerator. There is a passive aggressive sign saying, if your name isn't on the food, don't eat it. There's a billboard with a Wyoming pet adoption with a little dog picture, and it says our cost for caring. There's a really like official conflict resolution memo that clearly a boss put up. There's a Halloween poster, so like we know that things went bad somewhere around Halloween here. And July, the employee of the month was a poodle.
That's awesome, Paul. Oh, man. Yeah, it's a good scene that reminds Ellie and us that all these zombies were once people and they were doing their work and being weird and passive aggressive, and all they had to worry about was somebody stealing their food from the refrigerator.
Yeah. And that guy standing there that she's about to stab 17 times, he might have been the food thief.
Might have been. So yeah, she falls through the floor and she's wandering around and Dina tells her not to, but of course Ellie's going to do what Ellie's going to do. And she finds that magazine and yes, it's kind of a gay moment, but you know that's going to be before bean flicking later on. Finding out Jennifer Aniston is her type, I guess.
I was a little annoyed that Ellie looked at the exit doors that were padlocked and didn't even try them.
Yeah, and didn't try to undo them for an easy escape route. That's kind of stupid. Because then we get the scene with the creepy ass stalker, and I do have a clip from that, just a short one, but the sounds that the clickers make and the stalker make are so unique and iconic to this game. So here we go.
Run at me, fucker. Run at me!
It did the opposite.
It ran away! Does that sound like the stalkers from the game?
Yeah, like there's gasping and croaking sounds. It feels kind of... I'll have to get back to you on more of that, because I don't really remember the stalker type.
I obviously haven't played it yet, so not been introduced in the game to it, but the look of the stalker is really cool. It looks like it basically has mycelium antlers coming up off of its head.
Yeah. Did you see the nose mycelia too?
I did. Those were cool. But it kind of makes me also think of the elves from World of Warcraft.
Honestly, I was getting an elf vibe too.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, a little bit sleeker looking zombie. I wonder if our little contortionist zombie eventually would have become one of these.
Oh, yeah. Or something even more terrifying.
So it's a good scene. It's like really tense. When you're watching it, Ellie is obviously a little bit confused about what's going on. She comes out kind of ring style from underneath of a desk and jumps up on Ellie. And
before the jumping up on Ellie, there was a turnaround scare. Like she crawls up behind Ellie and that's when her face looks up and we see the nose mycelia. I just want to say that this adds... do you remember my theory from last year that like there's still sentient and cognizant people inside being like puppeted? I think that the woman was trying to scream a warning to Ellie. And that was like the weird gasp that kind of like, and then it was gone because the thing was like, oh, damn, I made a noise. And that's when it jumped out from the side.
Oh, I do remember that theory you had. And I think that's an awesome theory because the ants are still in there. We've talked about that last time, I think, that they're just controlling your motor functions, not your brain, really.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, creepy as fuck. She gets bit by the zombie and then ends up shooting it
Pulls
couple
out a
times.
gun, shoots it in a way that didn't seem like she was getting it in a vital spot, but whatever.
Yeah. And then Dina
Dawdling
arrives.
Dina, yep.
Dawdling Dina didn't make. I mean, how long is it going to really take you to go downstairs? Seriously.
Yeah. There's routes for emergency exits. Like OSHA requires this in all buildings, and therefore she could have found a map in many different places.
Yes.
Or follow exit signs. Like that will lead you to
100%.
stairs.
If you haven't noticed, Paul just took an OSHA class, so he's really invested in OSHA right now. He's mentioned it several times.
There's special fire extinguishers for electrical fires.
Ellie hides her bite from Dina, and that's kind of the end of the scene.
Dina's surprised. She's like, Ellie's on the ground, clearly shaken, shooketh, as the kids might say. And Dina's like, that's it? Just her? And Ellie's like, just her.
But I love that in the transition of the scene to the next one, they are kind of still looking at the zombie, and then Tommy's voice comes in from the council. And Ellie immediately, obviously, filled Dina in on this new type of zombie, which,
Yes.
I don't know why I thought because Ellie's a liar, right? She likes to hide stuff. So in my mind, I was like, thought she was going to try to hide that whole scenario, but she didn't.
Yeah, I guess she realized she's matured enough to know that, like, this thing had battle tactics, or at least hunting tactics, and therefore that's a danger to everyone I care about. So I'll just be happy with my little lie about being bit. I'll just keep that as, like, food for myself, and I'll tell the truth on everything else.
So this is where we come to the next couple of scenes where the council is getting a debrief from Dina and Ellie, and Joel tries to talk to Ellie. So key moments here that Tommy questions Ellie's report on the new kind of stalker zombie. Tommy gets in trouble with Maria for being macho. The council discusses the stalker and rising zombie numbers. They adjourn for the New Year's Eve party. Ellie cleans her bite wound and makes it not look like teeth by cutting it and sews herself back up. Ellie keeps a journal. Joel asks Ellie if she's okay and if she's going to the party, and asks about the guitar. The guitar has a moth on it. Joel runs away with the guitar to put new strings on it, but is basically just running away from Ellie.
And you're not joking about running away. Like, he is scooting out of there.
Literally running.
What can I do to help? Okay, goodbye.
So I do have the scene from the council that I like the most. It's mostly just an informational scene, but some fun dynamics here.
And how exactly is you two running into an uncleared building qualify as following the rules? Obeying your captain?
Well, it wasn't like this is our first time. We've killed a lot of infected before.
And you're telling me what, if it were you and Joel, you wouldn't have gone in?
Well, that ain't the same.
Why?
Because it's different.
How?
I love Maria. How?
All right. Apologize to Kat.
He knows when to
and log
shut
the
up.
report with Jesse. Go.
So I'm glad you brought that moment up, because I believe that there are at least two types of people in the world. There are people who care about fairness and symmetry. You know, Ellie complaining about it's not fair that Dina doesn't get sent to the wall earlier in the episode. That's her caring about, like, if it was any random person put in this situation, they should be treated in a similar way for the same cause and effect. Then there's the types of people who are, like, very me-centric or very top-down centric. And they're like, look, life is just asymmetrical. Live with it, kiddo. I'm the king and you gotta suck my dick. And, like, it's different if it was me, because there's this natural hierarchy to everything in life and you just need to accept your position in it, bitch. Clearly, from my wording, you can probably tell which type of person I am.
Yeah.
And Tommy seems to be the authoritarian type.
Yeah, well, so is Joel. I mean, they both are. They're
Definitely.
from a macho culture.
Yeah, men do this, girl do that.
And not only like a Texan culture, but I think in Hispanic culture too, it's very macho, somewhat patriarchal. I feel like this is very good, though, to see that within our culture, however we've been raised, we can learn to be different. And that's what they're showing, that these women, and it is often the women that have to stand up in whatever culture you're in and teach the men to stop being macho little bitches and let women do their job, which is to be badasses.
Their job is to be badasses, guys. Do you understand this?
There are ways to do things, like that's why we have systems, and sometimes those systems are bad and sometimes they're good. And usually women are better at making a more equal system. It's been proven.
The collective intelligence of a group rises with the proportion of the group's female membership.
And education, the education of the female
Education
population.
also is, it's a different thing where you just said, but yes, that education is critical, which is why they're attacking it.
So it's a funny scene, but it also
fuck
implies,
you, Tommy.
but implies a lot, right?
Yeah. I do have a couple more of the council things. So one, Dina's a terrible liar, at least in this. She's just like, everything she has said is true. I have nothing to say.
Oh, yeah.
And also there's a fun line after the girls are sent away. They're basically said, apologize to Kat for, violating the rules, log your report with Jesse, and we'll call it good. And then the council's having some talks, and there's some back and forth on like whether we believe that that's true. And one of the ladies in there quoted Lily Tomlin quote of reality's nothing but a collective hunch. So I had to look that up. And it comes from like a one-woman play called Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe, 1985. And we can cut out, like, I don't want this to be boring, but I found a few other quotes that I thought were really great. Reality is the leading cause of stress amongst those in touch with it. Reality is a crutch for people who can't cope with drugs. It's my belief that we developed language because of our deep inner need to complain.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
I just have two more. No matter how cynical you become, it's never enough to keep up. And don't be afraid of missing opportunities. Behind every failure is an opportunity someone wished they missed.
Oh, those are great. Lily Tomlin is amazing. And Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda are friends. And I always thought that was kind of weird because they seem so different. Because Lily Tomlin is quite cynical and she's funny. And Jane Fonda has done some comedy type things, but like she has a history of like activism. But then you kind of realize together they're like that extrovert Dina and that introvert of Ellie. There's like a lot of connection, I think, between that resistance against the man, like attitude that is very feminist, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a feminist moment, this moment.
And it was easy to throw away. Like, if I didn't look it up, I would have just been like, oh, a Lily Tomlin quote that seemed appropriate.
Thank you for bringing us back to that.
Yeah.
So Ellie's back in her garage, writing some notes in her journal about not messing up her friendship because she wants to fuck her best friend. And
loving that barbecue joke again.
Yeah. And then a different type of bear arrives at her door. And I bet all those gay boys wish he was Bear.
Mm-hmm.
He comes and he's being very demure, trying to make peace with Ellie,
but he does it in such a dad way, because the first thing he does is like what my dad did, was just turn on the lights and be like, that's better, right? And I was like, no, I liked it dark.
Yeah, but like the first thing he does is basically ask if she's okay.
Yeah.
Which is a very dad thing to do. And, she's doing the typical teen daughter thing of like not turning around to talk to him. And he's trying not to get mad. Like, they've had some balls out fights before this, right? So this is the end of the fighting realm. It's him like trying to make up with her. And he notices the guitar and he notices the moth on the guitar. I at first thought it was a firefly, but then I was like, that didn't really look like a firefly, so I looked it up and it was a moth. And I know that there's some game stuff that has to do with this moth, I'm sure of it.
This whole damn scene.
I think you talked about it already a little bit at the beginning of the episode, so maybe a short and sweet.
Yeah, short and sweet. This scene is a direct pull from the opening cutscene where Joel is bringing the guitar to Ellie for the first time. And it's got the same composition. She's sitting at her desk. He knocks on the door. She doesn't hear because she's listening to actually Sean James, who's the singer of the song that's the title of episode 2. It's an amazing fucking song. He opens the door, tries to carefully walk in. He very casually like kicks the seat behind her because he doesn't want to get too close and get stabbed, but It's such a beautiful scene. He's being so careful, and like my note in this part is like, this fucking scene. So yeah, like it's very heartfelt and cute. And in the video game version, they're further along in the process of trying to heal. So she's listening to him, and he tries to tell her a joke, and he bumbles it a little. And she's like, I have to do a patrol in the morning. Can we cut this short? And he's like, no, listen, hold on. And this is when he like brings the guitar in, and then he plays a song for her, and you have a mini game for that. Speed it up, Paul. And that warms her up, and she's like, well, it doesn't suck. And then he gives it to her, and he promises to teach her. And she's like, okay, tomorrow after patrol, I'll learn it, start teaching me. And then as he's exiting the scene, she says, Joel, wait, did you remember that joke? Which is such a symbol, and he puts his hand on the door and he's like, okay, yeah. And it's like, what's the downside of eating a clock? And she's like, what? And he's like, but like, wasting time, consuming time. It's time consuming. And she's like, that's so bad. But she loved it. And like, he left and she started to play the guitar. Like they had fully resolved the tension.
Oh, wow. That's so different.
Yeah, it's very different in that.
I wish they would.
Wish they had that.
I wish they had that. I guess I'm going to have to play the game to get it. Like I said, Joel in the TV show sees the moth, and it kind of freaks him out, and I think makes him think of the things. This is where I'm confused, because it seems like their fight is probably over what he did at the hospital, but it actually seems like he hasn't told her in this scene, because then he runs away, because I feel like he still wants to tell her the truth, but hasn't.
I'm trying to remember. I think she doesn't know until late in this second game.
That's what I was like thinking that he... So what were they arguing about? It has to be something about Eugene. I don't know. Anyway, I'm like, I am the newbie here. Don't tell me, Paul. I want to find out.
Okay.
Whether I get to it in the game, if I start actually playing the game, or in the show, which probably is more likely going to be the show. But definitely, I feel that tension here in this scene where he runs out. That he wants to tell her but can't, so that's what makes him run away.
And so I kind of want to say that one thing I love about there being these significantly noticeable differences between the game and the TV show is that it's kind of like a time loop situation where you try things a little bit differently. You replay the game and get all the dialogue options. Like it feels like a different telling.
Yeah, I love that take on it. Okay, so now we get the New Year's Eve party.
Betty and the jugs.
Brittany and the jugs.
Brittany, that's right.
All right, so the settlement is having fun. Again, we get to see everybody doing their thing at a church dance party. They're in a church. Ellie is staring at Dina as she dances. Jesse and Ellie talk about Dina. Dina pulls Ellie onto the dance floor. Ellie is feeling the waters, reminding Dina that guys are looking at her. Dina and Ellie continue to dance, and Dina pulls Ellie in for a kiss. Seth, the bigot, tells them to cool it, and then calls Ellie a dyke. Joel sideblinds him down to the floor. Maria saves Seth's life. Ellie is mean to Joel. Gail is watching and drinking. Later, Ellie is walking back to her house from the party and sees Joel on the porch playing the guitar. They don't say a word to each other. You see a sparkler fall to the ground, and it activates the mycelium in the old water pipe.
Because honestly, this whole show, the moral lesson to take away from it is that you need to look after your plumbing.
Both your physical plumbing and...
metaphorical, but...
yeah, I think watch the scene, folks. It's glorious. I mean, I think my synopsis puts it out there, but...
Yeah.
It was cute for me to actually think about this as if I was Joel, because Joel's there the whole time, watching from the sidelines. They never show him. when she's dancing. So you don't know that he's there. But now that I've watched the scene, I can imagine it. He's like probably standing there being like, oh, Dina and Ellie are dancing. Oh, they're kissing. Like, I don't know. I know Joel doesn't act like that, but...
Oh, that bigot is talking shit about my daughter and sort of the other daughter who's maybe my daughter-in-law.
Who does that guy think he is? Talking to Ellie like that. Oh my gosh. I love the whole scene. I think it displays the awkwardness of teens. Again, we got Dina the tease, the dawdling Dina in her sexuality. But
playing all sides.
She doesn't know what she wants. I get it. Like, it's confusing time.
Fun. She's high.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of weed in this colony.
There is, unbeknownst to the council. The scene where Joel comes out of the woodwork and just like rams Seth to the ground. I was so happy in that moment. I was like, everybody at one time or another wants to be Joel. Wants to have the guts to just fucking nail the bigot and then have the power to actually like put fear in them, which, you know, often isn't the case. You can't do that. You're physically not as strong as them, or there's more of them. But that's what makes Joel sort of that like level of hero, that he's complicated. Yeah. But if you have him at your back, like, you feel powerful because nothing can touch you. So I do have that scene. So let's listen to it really quick.
Hey. It's a family event.
Sorry. Sorry.
In a church. Dykes.
What did you just say? No,
Bam!
Get the hell out of here.
Seth?
Let's take a walk. Come on.
He's going to get a strong talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay?
Oh, his voice.
What is wrong with you?
No.
I don't need your fucking help.
Ellie, you do.
Right.
And so from the town's view, you know, everyone's there. There's a little awkwardness. Joel did some bully stuff that everyone's like, you know, maybe it's actually cool that he did that. We're fine. We're fine with it. And then she says that. And that's like one of the most shocking things to everyone is like, yeah, we've sensed the awkwardness between them, but she like literally called him out in front of everybody and said, I don't need you. Like, something's bad here.
Well, and I do love that his reputation is so strong that Maria's like, fuck. And she doesn't tell Joel to stop. She just runs up to Seth and is like, gotta get this guy out of here before he's dead. And you're absolutely right how nobody steps up for Seth. Like, everybody's just like, whoa. You can see their faces like going, bang, like, what's going to happen? Everybody's been waiting for the dynamite to hit with these two. Everybody's been feeling the awkwardness. Yeah. So, yeah, I think for her to call him out, it's a very daughter-dad moment. I remember the first time I said fuck you to my mom, like when I was a kid, it was a teen. And I remember being like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
I once told my dad that my mom was, quote, being asinine. I don't think I fully knew what the word meant because that's not exactly how you use it in a sentence, but he got mad.
Yeah, so she got off real easy here. Like,
yeah, he backed up. He was like, you're right, you don't.
It's an interesting take here that we see that Joel is the softest when it's his family and when it's his daughter. Yeah. And if you watch that scene, like, Catherine O'Hara's just like, glug, 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 glug.
I imagine her with popcorn, too.
Yeah, that she couldn't see that scene and know that there's no way Joel would hurt Ellie because he literally walks away when she's humiliating him, basically, in front of everyone.
And is this the moment you were saying before of, like, how it hit different?
No, it's the scene where she walks back
by and
from the
doesn't
party
say.
and
Okay.
doesn't say anything. So the last moment that they see each other is a moment of like tension
Yeah.
where they don't talk.
Yeah, so for me, it was this moment. It was like, this is the last thing she says to him.
Yeah. I know the secret. I'm going to talk about it now of episode 2 and the Last of Us 2 video game. So if you don't want to hear it, shut it off. Paul kind of gave a clue earlier, but so Joel dies in that next episode 2.
Yeah.
And I had been kind of holding hope. I was like, okay, like I heard that they changed some things. So maybe they changed that really big thing because everybody loves Pedro Pascal. I was like, maybe they won't kill him. Maybe they won't. It's kind of making me cry just thinking about it right now. But yeah, so when I watched the scene of them just like looking at each other but not saying anything, it really hit harder the second time I watched it because now I know my hope is dashed. And yeah, so at least she sees him. Her last moment with him is seeing him doing something that he loves, that he relates with her, the guitar, him. The last moment she had with him was actually him protecting her again from
trying to get up.
Bigot, you know?
Oh, or that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that scene. I guess her last not traumatic scene.
Yeah, not that scene. Before we get too far from it, because it does matter, at the beginning of the scene in the church, there's a cool moment where Ellie's talking to Jesse. He's also looking at Dina, you know, from the perspective of someone who just broke up. And she tells him, you know, like, oh, it'll be a couple weeks and you'll be back together. And he says, I don't think that's happening this time. Yeah, it's just like a little sad moment for Jesse. You know, why is he even at this party? Like, it's just hurting him. And so when Dina walks up after having just danced with, you know, all the guys in town, probably. She gets to Ellie and she's like, you know, oh, you're finally here. And she takes the drink from Jesse. And I forgot to say that, like, Ellie and Jesse were both like, yeah, I'm miserable here. Like, I had to be half drunk just to even be here. Dina steals his drink and then pulls Ellie on the dance floor. And now it's like literally everybody in town except for Jesse is having fun with Dina. And so he's just like, all right, well, be back to work in the morning. Like, don't party too hard. And then he's bounced. He's like, I don't want to be here. I have nothing for me here.
Yeah, this is a look at Jesse before episode 2 and 3, where he has taken on a lot more responsibility than those two. They get to still play around like kids, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
And because he's 4 years older, and it is a big difference sometimes at that age. I think as we get older, those differences aren't as noticeable. But when you're younger, I really do think there's a difference.
Yeah.
The final scene of the episode, sparkler falling, you see the mycelium twitching in the water pipe, and then it cuts to Abby's face and her turning and giving a look to her second in command, and she's looking down at the settlement, and then they cut to black. So they definitely imply, like, I'm pretty sure you could figure out what's going to happen in the next episode almost beat for beat based on those two scenes. Abby's going to get Joel for revenge, and a bunch of zombies are going to show up in town. Which pretty much what is the next episode.
I had a note that I had to reread 4 or 5 times before I understood what I wrote. I wrote 5 shadowing. There's a lot of foreshadowing going on.
It's so true. Like, if you don't know what's going to happen next, like things are going to go to shit, you weren't watching this first episode. But yeah, it's a rough one, this next episode. So be ready, folks. We may or may not have a guest on next time. I would like to have someone else on just because.
An emotional support guest?
Yes, exactly. So we're hoping to get producer John from Open Pike Night on again. don't stop watching The Last of Us 2 just because of this upcoming episode. Like, it's still important that we watch things after somebody that we really love might not join us on that journey. Or will not. I would say that it's good to be back to The Last of Us, something that we both really cherish. And the next episode is called Through the Valley.
God, that song bumps.
And then if you would like, please rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your content. And you can find me mostly on Idle Ride over at Blue Sky for social media. And let's cry together next time.